Thank you. Welcome to this virtual meeting of North Tyneside Council's Finance Subcommittee. Following the recent introduction of regulations to allow remote meetings in light of the current coronavirus pandemic, my name is Councillor Anthony McMullen and I am the chair of the subcommittee. I would like to inform everyone that this meeting is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel to enable the public to observe the proceedings, and I welcome anyone who is watching. Before we move on to the agenda, I would like to make it clear who is participating in the meeting and explain how we intend to conduct the meeting. In order to check who's in the meeting, I would like to ask everyone present to confirm their attendance at this meeting. First of all, I will call out the names of each committee member. After I call your names, please turn on your microphone and camera and introduce yourself. So firstly, Councillor Debbie Cox.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Debbie Cox, I'm Deputy Chair of the Committee and Commonwealth Ward Member. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Councillor Naomi Craven has placed her apologies, so that brings us on to Councillor John O'Shea.
Good evening, Chairman. My name's John O'Shea and I'm a councillor for Whitley Bay.
Thank you, John. I have Councillor John Sterling on my list, but I do not see him in attendance. So we'll go on to Councillor Paul Richardson.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, good evening. Yes, I'm Councillor Paul Richardson, Councillor for Monks Eaton North.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And last but not least, Councillor Judith Wallace.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening. I'm Judith Wallace, Councillor for St Mary's Ward.
Thank you very much, Judith. Can I now ask officers in attendance to introduce themselves, stating your name and job role. After I call your name, please turn on your microphone and camera and introduce yourself. Firstly, Janice Gillespie.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Janice Gillespie, Head of Resources and Chief Finance Officer for the Authority.
Thank you. Claire Emerson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Claire Emerson, Deputy Section 151 Officer for the North Tyneside Council.
Kathy Davison.
Thank you, Chair. Kathy Davison, Principal Accountant within the Finance Service.
Thank you. David Dunford.
Thank you, Chair. David Dunford, I'm the Senior Business Partner within the Finance team.
Brilliant, thank you. And Paul Wheeler.
Great, Chair. I'm Paul Wheeler from Democratic Services.
Brilliant, thank you, Paul. Is there anyone else present who I've missed? For today's meeting, we must first deal with some formalities, i.e. the apologies of absence, declarations of interest, and confirmation of the minutes. The agenda papers contain 3 reports for this meeting. I will take each of the sections in turn, in the order they appear on the agenda, which has been published on the Council's website. For each of the report, I will ask the relevant officer to introduce the item. I will then ask members of the committee if they have any questions, and then we'll also ask if the members wish to make a comment on the report. In terms of etiquette for the meeting, can I just remind everyone that they should mute their microphones and turn off their video unless they're speaking. That brings us on to the formal agenda. So item 1, apologies for absence. So I've mentioned before that Naomi Craven has submitted her apologies. Has anyone else done so?
No, Chair.
Okay. Is there any appointment of substitute members?
There's no substitute members, Chair.
Brilliant, thank you. And declarations of interest. Do any members wish to declare an interest in any items of business on the agenda? No? Okay. That brings us on item 4, the minutes. Can I ask that the minutes of the last meeting held on the 14th of July 2020 be approved as a correct record?
Great.
Councillor Wallace?
Chairman, could I ask at this point, I think during the last meeting I asked for some clarification about the payment of the airport dividend, what the directors knew about that and so forth. I don't think I've had any information about that. Have you had anything?
I don't recall seeing anything. Janice?
Sorry, Chair, that's my error. Apologies, Judith. I'll pick up that and make sure I get something out this week.
Thank you, if you would.
Thanks. If we note that down on the acceptance of the minutes, are we fine to proceed?
Great.
Yes. Great.
Right. Okay, so that brings us on item 5, the 2021 Financial Management Report, so the 31st of May 2020. which are pages 8 to 82. Can I ask, is it Janice, are you going to present this report?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is the first budget monitoring report, financial management report for 2021. And I guess in a challenging environment that we are in, what the report tries to do is set out for each area what we see as those pressures and issues arising as a result of the COVID pandemic, compared to what we would say, what we are calling business as usual and normal business activities. So we've done that across the general fund, the housing revenue account, and continue to develop that with schools in terms of our overall reporting. What we've also included in this report, I guess in response to understanding the COVID picture, is a bit more reporting on the collection fund. So that's about what we're seeing across business rates and council tax in terms of potential impacts as a result of COVID. So I think whilst we have seen significant pressure arising, what we've tried to set out in the report is some clarity around the funding that we've received to date, certainly up to the time of the report, over and above our normal funding that mitigates some of the total pressure. Clearly the housing revenue account hasn't been given any direct funding awards, so their mitigations of actions will have to come in another way. And at the minute, what we've tried to set out is what we think the pressures arising on the collection fund will be over and above the grants that we've received directly for business rates and local council tax support. So it feels like a bit more of a complex report in terms of that overall picture of financial reporting. But I'm happy to take any questions. I have a number of colleagues around the table who will help me in those responses if needed.
Okay. So just to understand the positioning of that, we're 13 million off forecast, off budget, but that of which 12 million of that is, we believe, attributable to COVID-19 related pressures. Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
In the general fund, yes.
The general fund.
The housing revenue account, they're actually reporting a business as usual underspend of 1.1 million, but then they've actually got COVID pressures of around 1.7 million. That was at the May position. Obviously, we will bring an updated position following the next report to Cabinet.
Okay, understood. Shall I invite any questions at this moment? And I'll flip through by section, but I'm happy to take any questions from members now. Councillor O'Shea.
Chairman, I'm looking at page 28, and that indicates a number of grants, substantial grants that were received to try and support us through the COVID. Is that a complete picture, or was it? Is that what it was when the report was produced, and has there been any further additions?
Thank you, Chair. This was at the grants notified during April and May. So yes, there have been additional funds. So we've had a further allocation of local authority support grant. So we had a third tranche of that. We have had, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, test, track and trace funding. So there is an additional list of funding, yes, that I can certainly provide to the committee so you can see the most up-to-date list.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Debbie?
Thank you, Chair. I've got 3 questions. Again, on the grants. One of them is to do with the delivery of the youth music programmes. Basically, do any of the grants have a time deliverance slot? Because obviously with coronavirus, then face-to-face contact and everything else should be kept to a minimum, I think. So do any of the grants have that kind of caveat on them, or
I think one of the, there is a risk associated with any grants that we've received for this financial year. So what we're trying to ensure is that any receipts, we understand the delivery compliance and that they can actually be met through other means other than face-to-face. So at the minute, what I'm assured of is there are no risks to us either losing the grants or failing to deliver against the outcomes of the grants. So there is some flexibility that different departments are giving, recognising the impacts of COVID.
Excellent, thank you. My next question is to do with section 8, the investment plan on page 69.
Which page is that, sorry?
Page 69.
Thank you.
It's kind of like a general question, because obviously with the investment plan, again, unfortunately with coronavirus, we'll have to be extremely careful. It's one of the lines saying it's too early to predict the full impact of the pandemic, so we won't know the impact on the fact of actually doing the investment plan. Is there a point of no return where we know that, well, we're not going to be able to plan it in things, so therefore it's going to have to move into the next financial year? Is there a point of no return kind of thing on that?
I think what I would say is, as part of the regular monitoring process, absolutely officers are working through that absolute question as a matter of normal business, if you like. So what I expect to see as we go through the next report and the following report, there may well be a number of projects that entirely push into 21, 22, or there's a pushback of delivery. So that's certainly being monitored very closely at the minute. I guess the irony is that some of that can have benefits financially, because reprogramming, sorry, I can't even say that this evening. Reprogramming can bring with us savings on the interest and MRP, minimum revenue provision. But clearly what we don't want is, I guess, real delivery delayed for too long. So I would expect certainly the next report will give an updated picture on delivery against that, and what reprogramming we may see in the future years. I think certainly on housing, talking to colleagues in housing, what they're trying to do is find a way to accelerate different aspects of the programme that will allow them to achieve, if you like, full financial delivery, and where possible accelerate things that they might be able to bring forward to mitigate those things that are delayed. So I would expect us to continue to see them coming forward.
So you sort of, in that sort of sense, sort of the external works where you don't have to be in a customer's premises, do those ones first, then come and do the kitchens later.
Yeah.
And just one final question, if I may, Chair. It's on, thank you, section 9 on the Treasury Management. I know the government have a policy, again, to do with coronavirus and what's called supplier relief, where all public sector have to pay suppliers with immediate effect. What sort of impact has that had on the Treasury Management? Because we like to keep the cash balances low.
Yeah, I think because a lot of the grants, the significant corona grants, have been paid up front, we have seen minimal impact on cash flow. So I guess on a positive front, central government have very quickly paid us the COVID funding up front. The Section 31 grant in respect to the business rates relief was all paid up front. So actually we had a lot more cash than we had anticipated having at the start of the year. So there has not been a detrimental impact on cash flow.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Chair.
No problems. So I'm going to just jump through the sections again, just in case it inspires anybody to have any more questions, unless there's any more right now. Cool. So section 1. And Debbie, can you take your hand down if there's another question? Thank you. Section 2, delivery of budget savings and proposals. Section 3, new revenue grants. Section 4, service commentaries. There's lots in there, and I think it's really good the extra detail that's been put in this report. The questions I would have asked, you've got ahead of us, so thanks. There is, in page 42, in the table that's there, property, there's a comment there that says a loss of ability to recharge staff time to capital.
Yep.
Is that because they're doing a different role, or they weren't able to do the role? I can't understand there.
Because I guess it's an impact of not being able to deliver some of the schemes.
Okay.
So we can only actually charge staff to capital where we're able to demonstrate that they've delivered an enhanced asset.
Yep.
So because we've got some delay in delivery of the investment plan at the moment, that's a prudent estimate of the recharge we cannot make.
Because the asset hasn't been enriched in that period.
Correct. What I would say is those, just to be assured, those people aren't sitting twiddling their thumbs, if you like, because there's been a whole raft of other work that those staff have had to be involved in, but it means that their time cannot be charged to capital. Yeah.
Okay. That's rather prudent. I know that's something that you've got to go through and be with a fine tooth comb.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, audit will catch you on it later, which is good that you're ahead of it. Page 45 had the impact on the Mouth of the Time Festival's fees paid to acts. Do we have to pay some acts, even though we had to cancel because of? I assume they've got very good agents, and that's probably the terms they're on.
Yes. So there are some fees that we have paid up front, and some of them will absolutely carry forward as fees paid in advance into 21, 22. But unfortunately, there are some one-off fees, relatively small amounts that we won't be able to carry forward.
Okay. On the next page, Streetlight and PFI. How does Streetlight and PFI counter antisocial behaviour?
Just because we've had to increase some of the lighting.
Okay.
So we basically increased the cost of lighting to provide, I guess, more of a secure environment currently.
Okay. So it's just burning the bulbs a bit longer. So
burning the bulbs longer, correct. Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. Anything more in section 2? I know it's section 4, it's a sizey section. No? The collection fund? I must say this yet again was massively detailed and paints quite a good picture on business rates collection. I thought it might be a bit less happy, but it seems to be on trend, I would say. So that's pretty good. Okay. Section 6, schools finance. Nope, no questions on that. I think it's probably prudent that because we've not taken quite a few of our SLA charges, probably helped them a little bit. Because from what I can see from the service commentaries, it's probably helped their books a little bit, I would think.
I think, Chair, if I can just add on to that, any assumptions around SLA are things that we've been dialoguing the schools, because the schools, just the same as the local authority, have to comply with supplier relief. And so what you will see is that picture changing as we move forward, where we would expect to be paid for SLAs in compliance with the supplier relief notice.
Okay. Cool. Section 7, which is the housing revenue account. Any additional questions on that? No. Section 8, the investment plan. Yeah, I think section 9 is the treasury management and cash position. Okay, so that's our little canter through the sections. So any further questions on this before I move to comments? No? Okay. So do any members have any comments to make to this report? Councillor Wallace?
Sorry, Chairman, it was a question actually about...
Sorry, that's fine.
The Southern Promenade on page 71.
71, yeah.
On page 71, where the Environment Agency has provided an additional £100,000 grant. does that mean that extra work is being done that wasn't able to be done before, or is that saving £100,000 from somewhere else? In which case, where's that 100,000 going, please?
BV 068.
Kathy, are you able to advise on that? I don't know the detail on that.
My understanding is just additional work that we're able to do now, but that's as much detail as I know. We can get more information if you would like that.
That'll be. I think that'll be welcomed. So, current thought is it's additional work we couldn't already do.
Yeah.
But if we can have that as a little bit of a briefing note to go along with the other briefing note, that'll be brilliant.
That would be helpful, yes, because obviously that work has started. So it would be good to know whether it's been possible to extend the project, or in fact, if it's saving the authority 100,000. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Chair, can I just add, just having skimmed through the rest of the variations, it must be additional work, because what there isn't is a reduction elsewhere of 100,000. So if there was 100,000 moving somewhere else, you would actually see that in the report.
The transfer to reserves or something. Yeah.
It's definitely extra grant.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's a very small note on that. That will be welcomed afterwards, just to confirm that. Is there anything else, Councillor Wallace?
No, that's okay, thanks.
Brilliant, no worries. So, is there anybody who wish to make a comment on this report? No? Okay. So I think that concludes item 6. Sorry, item 5. I'm trying to skip through the agenda. Sorry about that. So if that's no more on item 5, then we'll go to item 6, which is the section 106 report, which was sent as a supplementary agenda paper. Is that you, Janice, introducing this one? Or who's introducing this one?
Shall I do it? Yes.
If
Okay.
Kathy could do it, thanks, Kathy.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Right, this is Section 106 report. It's a similar format to the reports that have been previously. So basically, we'll have 2 appendices. The first appendix is the monies that have actually been billed and received. So they're kind of completed obligations in terms of we have the cash for those. They amount to just over 11.5 million, of which 3.4 million is allocated for affordable homes, and we are expecting that to allocate that element of the money to the plan within the next few months. In terms of Appendix 2, the format of that is slightly different to what we've produced in the past. We now have a Section 106 monitoring officer who unfortunately couldn't be with us today, but that information is taken from the information that he now holds. So these schemes are basically schemes that are in the pipeline where the planning application has been approved, but the development hasn't actually happened yet. So they're kind of anticipated future receipts dependent on the development being completed. And the total of those is £8.4 million. The only other thing I'd say is in addition to these 2 appendices, we'll have just over 2 million on the investment plan as it currently stands as well, for projects that are currently underway. If anybody has any kind of questions on the process or whatever, I can kind of take those, but if the questions on the detailed schemes, I might have to take them back for Dan Wise to answer those.
Understandable, because the complexities of some of these agreements, I wouldn't expect them to be on WGov. So I can see Councillor O'Shea's hand waving, then I'll bring in Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Chair. Just looking at Appendix 1, which is headed Monies Received and not yet spent. Ms Davison has indicated it's about 11.5 million. Clearly there's some advantages for the council in just keeping that money in the bank account. But is there a policy around actually getting this spent? Because I noticed some of the projects go back to the beginning of this century, and I'm just wondering, why is there a delay in actually spending the money? Because really, it seems a bit false for us to keep it in the bank account when it should be spent on good purposes connected with the planning application.
Yeah. I think some of the older projects, the conditions are maybe quite tightly specified, which has made it difficult to actually spend some of the money. But some of the this is an issue that the new monitoring officer is looking at in terms of trying to get the spend through and actually make use of the money. And indeed, kind of new applications that are coming through. There's a subgroup of the IPB set up to look at those to kind of make the best use of any Section 106s that come in terms of making them as flexible as we can to ensure that we are able to use them for the purpose that we need.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Chairman. My point is very similar. I've made this before. I am concerned that some of this money has sat there for a long time. I mean, for example, for healthcare facilities, there's something like £250,000, I think it is. £250,000 that's sat there for a long time. And parks, I think it's £500,000, again, sitting there for a long time that hasn't been used. And whilst I hear the point about the conditions being tight, it's our officers that have worked with these developers in setting those conditions in the first place. So surely they should be ones that are feasible and practicable so that the money can be used for the benefit of the borough. We're often being told, there's no money for X, Y and Z, but clearly there is an awful lot of money sitting here. I think it would be really helpful, Chairman, if we could have a report to the next meeting saying specifically what is happening with this money, rather than just having it be carried forward yet again.
Could well be one of the ageing ones where we have ones that have been sitting on the balance sheet for a while. Sort of must be a progress update from the 106 officer. Is that?
Yep.
Mr. Wise.
That is something that he's actively looking at, so we can. In terms of trying to, like I say, trying to get the money spent. So, yeah.
Dennis, do you want to come in?
I'm thinking about, Kathy, in addition to that, would it be helpful when we bring back that report to highlight those amounts that are shifting into the investment plan as we see that coming forward? Would be helpful to highlight. Yeah. And I guess where we've tried to develop some proposals, certainly around things like healthcare facilities, etc., making sure we bring some of the narrative through around that. You can certainly pick that up outside the meeting and think about how we present that.
Yeah. I think it's really good. It's very clear to see the balances, but I think we just need a little bit of narrative there to say what we're doing to close some of these balances down or what troubles we're having, because I know in the past we've had troubles with the healthcare providers that they either want to spend it on something that isn't feasible or they didn't want to spend it at all or didn't want to engage with us, which neither of those are positive outcomes, but we do need to sort it out because the money is there and should be used for the purpose it's there for. Councillor Wallace, was there any additional question? As the hand still up from the last time? Oh,
sorry, I've taken the hand down.
That's okay. Just want to make sure I hadn't cut you off with another question.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Are there any other further comments in this 106 report? Sorry, questions. Then, are there any comments on the 106 report? Okay. So, at this point, I would like to thank officers and members of the public for watching the live stream and announce the next Finance Subcommittee meeting will take place at 6 p.m. on the 17th of November 2020. We're about to enter into the exclusion resolution. So, give me 1 second once I just check how this works. Can I ask all members to turn on their microphones and request members agree to pass the exclusion resolution for the Agenda 9 as it contains items that are exempt information And assuming that the
Agreed.
resolution is passed, so do I have agreement on that? And I can read that the rest of the
Agreed.
sentence.
Agreed.
Great.